Okay, so it's time for us to go ahead and get back into our coverage over Generation X, and it has been a while, but the thing was, we had to cover a massive crossover, better known as Onslaught, when it came to our coverage over the X-Men. And so in the 1990s, you had all these different X titles. You got X-Men, X-Factor, X-Force, Generation X, like all these different titles just popping up left and right in the 1990s. So it does get kind of hard to cover all the different books that some fans may care for more than others. But either way, let's go ahead and get back into our coverage over Generation X. Now, with that being said, this is right here, of course, picking up Post-Onslaught. So, of course, for our heroes right now, they're trying to adjust to the idea that things are going to be a tad bit different for the mutant race. But also, it's kind of like, okay, where can we take this team now post-Onslaught? But at the same time, we're kind of also like building up to the next crossover as well, because we do pick up with Bastion. As we all know, for Bastion, he's right now trying to begin his Operation Zero Tolerance. So to get that off the ground, he has been working with different governments across the world. But he also has been appearing in different X books like Uncanny X-Men, also X-Men, and that's really it. Oh, also Wolverine as well. But it's now time for him to appear in Generation X. So we see him right now currently trying to gather information on Chamber, but also Implate. So he does have his assistant at the moment trying to gather different video footage of what happened back in Generation X #1, where you had Implate attack Chambers and our superhero team at the airport. And so right now it seems Bastion has some kind of mission when it comes to getting his hands on Chambers. But now we can go ahead and switch over to Generation X. Now, when we do, we see our young heroes with their teachers and they're having a barbecue, right? Now, while having this barbecue, we kind of get the idea the kids are trying to adjust to what the world is going to be like. Because again, when it came to Onslaught, it was a big event. It killed off the Avengers. It killed off the Fantastic Four. The world now knows that technically that was a mutant attack on the entire nation, but possibly the entire world as well. And so right now for humans, they're hating on mutants even more. Now, when it comes to Generation X, this series alone does spin off to different miniseries we may or may not cover on the channel. Like, for example, Artie and Leech, they get their own series as well for like 3 issues. We might cover it, we might not, because again, it's Artie and Leech. But either way, it's the kids right now trying to adjust to this new world. Like, for example, Paige Guthrie. Because for Paige, she understands what's happening out there. She understands that now if mutants who don't look like her, who look somewhat normal, then most likely they're gonna be attacked. Now for Banshee being one of her teachers, it's him right now just trying to show her like, yes, this world is a cruel place, but at the same time, you have to keep looking at things that are beautiful in this world, like hope and wishes of better things to come for this world. And so it's him saying like, even though things are getting darker right now, you gotta hold on to hope, because that hope we have for a better chance for mutants and humans to work together could possibly come if we all just hold on to the hope in the world. But while you have Banshee being able to do that, you didn't have really Emma Frost being kind of jealous of Banshee, because she realized that he's that teacher who's able to communicate with kids so easily. And she wants to be just like him, to have the ability to talk to students when they're going through certain things like this right here, where Paige kind of worried for the future of the mutant race. But out of nowhere, you didn't have Emma be attacked by this unknown force. Now, technically, this whole plot line right here won't really get picked up again until later books, but it's right now kind of leaving us wondering what in the world could happen to Emma Frost down the road. Now, you do have Banshee get a call from Chamber and Skin, and remember, for these two characters, they originally left the school to go over to the school of Charles Xavier. And the reason why, because for Chamber, something was going on with him when it came to Onslaught. Because in the prelude leading into that crossover, you had Onslaught just grab Chamber and then brought him right back where he had grabbed him from. And so ever since that moment, for Chamber's powers, they were kind of going a little bit wonky, but they're now back to normal because, well, Onslaught is no longer around. But now for our two characters, they're heading to a different location. And they tell Banshee like, hey, we're okay, but like, we ain't coming home just yet. But while that conversation was going on, you had Penance being able to eat some of the food that was being cooked in the barbecue. Now, while that was being done, you didn't have all the characters realize that there are marks all over the face of Penance. And that right there seems very weird because usually for Penance, her skin is hard to penetrate. And so for our heroes, they're kind of like, what in the world is going on right now with your skin? But she runs away. Now, later on in the day, you do have Emma Frost sit down with M, better known as Monet. Now, while you do have the two characters sit down with one another, they both have gone through a lot when it comes to their team because for Monet, everyone found out that Implate, their first enemy as a team, is actually her brother. Now, on top of that, with Encana Emma Frost, as I mentioned earlier, she had took the kids over to Canada in the middle of the Onslaught crossover. So for both ladies right now, they kind of feel like no one is going to trust them anymore. But you do have the two characters begin the process of bonding with one another. And really, when it came to the entire series, these two characters have not really been able to bond with one another until this moment right here because they both feel like the team is no longer going to trust them. But now we have to shift over to a character known as Chevy. Now for Chevy, he is not really that big of a deal, but like I did kind of bring him up in earlier videos, so why not go ahead and continue our good old story for Chevy. You see, for Chevy, he was a human who had killed off a mutant back in X-Men Prime #1. That took place right after Age of Apocalypse, leading into Onslaught. So when it came to Chevy, him and a few other humans had beat down on a mutant. And so, of course, right now, he's wanted for that crime. So his father said, hey, how about this? Go into hiding, but like this though, go work for a school full of mutants to kind of hide you, but also kind of show like you're not a mutant hater, you're a mutant lover. Now you do have the school getting a new student, and that would be Franklin Richards, because when it came to Onslaught, like I mentioned earlier, the Avengers and Fantastic Four were removed off the board. To the world right now, they believe those two teams right there are officially dead, but in reality, they're in a different reality, better known as Heroes Reborn. So when it comes to Nathaniel Richards, he's kind of like, okay, listen, my grandson has these powers and he needs teachers who can actually teach him how to use those powers in the correct way. And so right now for Franklin Richards, he will be staying with the school for Generation X, but really hanging out more with Artie and also Leech. And really, when it comes to Artie, Leech, and Franklin, as they're kind of running through the woods of the school, well, something or someone begins to call out to them. Now, of course, this same being is the same one we saw earlier who was confronting Emma Frost. And really, I'm going to save the idea of this character for the next video because in the next video, we're going to cover different holidays for this superhero team. But now we kind of begin the process of winding down this story because now we see for Bastion, he has gathered enough information about Chambers, but he also learned that Chambers' plane ticket was bought by Emma Frost's company. So now it's up to Bastion to kind of get more information about the company. And of course, that means getting him closer to Emma Frost. But getting into the end of this chapter right here, we do see that for Chamber and also for Skin, they were able to ask for a ride, be hitchhikers, of course, to get a ride from somebody. But that ride is no other than Howard the Duck. And so as we get into the next issue, we're seeing the Generation X students, the upper class, right now taking this test given to them by Beast. It's midterm season. Now, the reason why I say the upper class, because remember, they do have younger students. You've got Leech, Artie, and also Franklin Richards, but they're like, you know, kids. These are like high school kids, basically. But either way, with this test, it's going to allow Beast to figure out what's going on when it comes to, well, Monet. But I kind of want to go ahead and switch over to LA. Here's the reason why. Because we do pick up with Chambers, Howard the Duck, and also really Skin. Now, really at first, it's more Howard the Duck and Chambers because you do have the two characters right now inside this bar, where you do have Howard the Duck technically sort of bar fight. But when it came to Chamber and Howard the Duck, they went to that bar to look for information to find somebody known as Torres. Now, as the battle went on, Skin ran away. Now, this kind of leads into us learning a tad bit more about the character of Skin. But when it comes to Howard the Duck and also Chamber, they believe the person looking for named Torres was a guy. But then out of nowhere, they discovered that Torres is not a guy. Is actually a woman with tattoos around her eye. And the question is right now, what is her connection to Skin? Now, as we do switch back over to Beast for like a brief moment, you have Beast kind of realize something about Monet because he begins to talk to her, but it seems like she's not really focusing or hearing him at all when it comes to him trying to have a conversation with her. But now we have to switch back over to LA. Now, when we do, we're really picking up with Skin here. Now, for Skin, he's pretending to be an old man sitting at a bench right now near his grave. But then out of nowhere, he's confronted by this older woman. This older woman is his mom. Now, because remember, when it comes to Skin, he had faked his death. And so to the world, they believe that he is dead. But in reality, he's not. And so for his mom, she's there crying because she misses her son. But she has no idea that currently at the moment, she's talking to her son. And matter of fact, she tells this guy that she believes to not be her son, that ever since she lost her son, her heart has been completely broken. But as we get back over to school of Generation X, we pick up with Banshee and also Emma Frost. Now for these two characters, they're kind of wondering like, okay, what is Beast truly up to at the moment? Because they believe like knowing Beast, he's probably boring the students out of their minds at the moment. But in reality, it's Beast right now trying to figure out what's going on with Monet, because once she kind of come back into realizing that there were people trying to talk to her, have a conversation with her, that the other kids are officially done with their test like her, that she had built a whole entire paper model. And so for Beast, he's kind of wondering like, do you always have these types of moments where you don't notice everything going on around you? Now, for her, she tries to lie, but the rest of the class is like, don't lie. Tell him the truth. And the reason why, because we have seen this a lot when it came to Monet in earlier storylines where she'll be out there with the team, but then out of nowhere, she would just freeze up and no one will be able to move her or at least talk to her. Now, we do jump back over to LA, right? And when we do, we see that Torres does stop by the grave of Skin. Now, like everyone else, she believes that he is dead at the moment, but in reality, he's right there in front of her. But you do have her kind of leave and leaving us wondering like, what is her connection to Skin? But with that being said, to close on this video, we do jump back over to Emma Frost and also Banshee. Now, when we do, it's Beast informing them what he believes is going on with Monet, that she is, well, autistic. And so that kind of leads into the next two issues I want to cover in a different video, because it's going to be holidays for our heroes. But with that being said, guys, please leave me a like down below and subscribe. But guys, see y'all next time. Later.